Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to the Soul Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to ring in the new year with our good friend Asya Rose, astrologer and spiritual guide, and she's here today to share all about the astrology of 2025. So we're very excited to welcome you to the podcast. And last time you were with us, it was, I don't know, was it last spring? But I think we were called Behind the Emerald Veil at that time.
Yeah, I remember. Well, thank you for having me back. I'm happy to
Yes.
be here and talk more about all the crazy astrology that next year is going to.
Well, I keep hearing about that. I just keep hearing about 2025, that this first question. I've heard we've never in our history experienced what we're going to experience in 2025 astrologically. Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
Short version of this is yes. The answer is yes. There's a lot of planetary shifts that are all happening back to back to back to back to back to back, all within like 6 months of each other.
Wow.
And some of these shifts haven't happened in decades or even centuries. And they're kind of all happening in 1 year. So
when does that start?
God.
I know you're going to get into
it. One has already started, which is Pluto moving into Aquarius, which we've talked a lot about, over this past year. It was dipping in and out of 2 signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, and then back to Capricorn, tying up loose ends there. And then it fully dove into the Aquarian pool, as I like to say, on November 19th. So, now it's in there, and it's in there for good for the next 20 years. So this was like the first taste that we got of that. This is like a 3-year reckoning that we're in. Okay. Like 2024 was the build up to 2025. 2025 is when like a lot of changes and shifts are going to happen. And then 2026 is when like a lot of the changes are going to start to solidify and like really come into place. And then 2027 is like when we're really gonna look back on the previous 3 years and be like, wow, the world has changed so much.
So
but these are like the 3 years that are gonna like start all of these massive changes. And just to give you a taste, like Pluto moved into Aquarius this year, right? A lot of changes happened, right? In Aquarius energy. Aquarius is an air sign. It's also rules technology and innovation and rebellion and revolution. So we've seen some of these things manifest, right? Like rebellion, revolution, a lot of progression in technology, like AI, like robots, like just a lot of these things we've only just started to get a taste of. Right?
Yeah.
And when we see one of these outer planets, when that changes signs, not just signs, but also elements, which I'll talk about in a second, when we see just one of those shifts, how much has happened in just this year when one of these planets.
Wow. Next year,
all of the planets are going to switch.
Wow. I'm like, oh my God. I'm excited and I'm scared.
All of the outer planets are going to shift. And some of them haven't shifted. Like Neptune's going to switch signs for the first time since 2011. Wow. Uranus is going to switch signs for the first time since 2018. There's a lot of shifts in planetary energy that hasn't shifted in over a decade, sometimes 15 years. So we're going to feel very different energy than what we've been used to feeling. And we've only just gotten a taste of what that looks like. All of the planets have been in earth signs and they've been in water signs. Right? So they've been, Pluto was previously in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. Uranus has been in Taurus, which is an earth sign. Neptune has been in Pisces, which is a water sign. Saturn has been in Pisces, which is a water sign. Right? Next year, we already got Pluto moving into an air sign, right? Aquarius this year.
Air means fast. Things are going to move fast or quickly because water, well, earth is like rounded. Water is like me, like kind of like flaky, floaty.
Fluid? Well, I wouldn't necessarily flaky. I would say, here's the thing about earth and water signs, right? Earth is like rooted, fixed, grounded. It likes to analyze. It's very practical. It's very analytical. It's very rational. So it likes to like observe and make plans before making decisions, right? It
Mm-hmm.
takes time moving and making decisions. Well, let me analyze this first before I move forward, right?
Right.
Water is very much about emotions and feelings and intuition and spirituality, but it likes to ride the wave of the emotions before deciding on something. It's
Like, how
not
do I feel about this before I do that?
right. Like, let me ride this wave and like, oh my God, I don't feel good about it today, but maybe I'll feel better about it tomorrow. Let me really like unpack how I really feel emotionally before making a decision. So there's a lot of like unpacking things and thinking about it before taking action. And so Pluto moving into Aquarius, an air sign, Uranus is going to move into from Taurus, an earth sign, into Gemini, another air sign.
Oh my goodness.
Saturn is going to move out of Pisces, a water sign, into Aries, a fire sign. And Neptune is going to move out of Pisces, a water sign, into Aries, a fire sign.
Holy.
All of the planets are going to go from earth and water to air and fire. And like you said, air is quick moving, right? Wind makes things move quickly, and fire is quick moving.
Yeah.
Also, air spreads fire. Fire needs air to survive. Without air, fire would not keep growing.
Wow.
So this, I'm predicting this is going to manifest in lots of different ways, which we can go into more details about. But one of those ways, the way that's going to look is one, a lot of stuff is going to move very quickly. Right. So it means we're not going to have the luxury to unpack shit as long as we've had to. Right. Like right now, maybe we have like 6 months to really think about things, unpack things with your therapist before you decide something. Right. Maybe a year. I'm still thinking about this a year later. Maybe I should quit this job. Maybe I shouldn't quit this job. I don't know. Right. A year goes by. You're like, okay, maybe now's the time. Like when we move into this like quick moving energy, also fire is all about taking action. Not about analyzing, it's about moving forward and taking action, right? And we're not going to have, again, I'm repeating myself, we're not going to have the luxury of having all this time to unpack shit and process stuff and integrate stuff before taking action. We're just going to have to make decisions quicker and faster. For those people that have a lot of earth and water placements, this can feel a little bit jarring for you because you're not going to be used to having to make decisions so quickly, but it's good for you because you can't drag your feet on stuff before you used to. So it's going to feel uncomfortable, but it's going to be probably good for you, right?
Yeah.
For those who are naturally have a lot of air, and mostly for those of you who have a lot of fire in your chart, who are already like this, who are already impulsive.
Yeah, the fire is definitely impulsive. Aries is impulsive.
Right. So when you think about now you're in a fiery pool that's supporting your impulsivity. It's like you already have a lot of fire, and now the way I've been describing this is like suddenly gasoline gets poured on the fire.
Wow. I wonder how that's going to feel. Intense?
Very intense. A lot of action, but it depends on how you take the action, right? Like, for example, you know, I talk a lot in metaphors and analogies. You guys know that.
Love that.
Love it.
Like, let's say you're in line waiting at a grocery store to check out.
Yeah.
And you're in line and you're like, you know what? Do I really need this? Do I really need that? Maybe I don't need this. Maybe I don't need that. Or maybe you just like grab shit and you're like, maybe I'll grab this gum. Maybe I'll grab this, right? I don't know. You still have time to like think about things, right? Because you're waiting in line. You don't have a choice. You're like, all right, maybe I don't really need this, right?
Yeah.
Now think of like lines moving really fast. You're just grabbing everything around you and you go to check out and you come home. And you're like, what the fuck did I buy? Did I even need all of this stuff?
So I'm like, I feel like I'm a broken air fire person. I feel like I'm broken. I'm all air and fire in my main three. It's air and fire. And I think I'm the one that is like, I need to think about this. I don't like to make choices
you may
too
now
fast.
feel comfortable to step into that.
Oh, so maybe I need this will give me more of which I need.
Like
I think
there's going to be fire lit under you to step into your fire.
To embrace it. That okay. So I need it. I do need it. Yeah.
But I'm talking about people who have like a lot of Aries in their chart who are already impulsive to begin with.
Oh, and who are
maybe you need to like take a beat,
calm down.
Start a meditation practice.
That's what I've been saying a lot. Like spirituality is going to be way more important than ever. Grounding is going to be way more important than ever. Meditation is going to be way more important than ever, especially a lot of this energy, which we'll get into, you know, when I start talking about Saturn and Neptune and what those two planets are going to do together. There's just going to be a lot of distortion. that's also going to be
I can't
showing.
wait. I can't wait to watch my sister. She's an Aries. This is going to be an interesting year.
Can't wait to watch you crash and burn.
Well,
it's just so
you don't want
cute.
people to crash and burn.
No.
But there will be more burning. There will be.
But it'll be interesting to watch, like, an Aries, which I 100% agree, very, very, you know, like spontaneous, like I'm just gonna cut my hair, and you're like, are you sure? What are you doing? And then she's like, regrets it 2 weeks later, and you're like, maybe you should have thought about it first.
Right. Like I thought I wanted bangs, and then you go in the shower and you blow dry your bangs for the whole time. For the first time, and you're like, what did I do?
This is dumb. This is dumb.
Right.
Yeah. See, where I was like, I think I want bangs. So I ordered fake bangs first to try it out before having that decision. And then I'm like, no, I do not want bangs. Thank goodness I was slow and methodic. I'll go about it.
Well, you're in an energy that's allowing you to be slow and methodical now. Imagine now you're in an energy collectively where you have to take action quicker.
Right away.
I think I'm kind of excited about that. I
mean, the way this can manifest in a good way, which it will, is like things won't take as long to manifest either, right?
Yeah.
So things that used to take years can take months. Things that used to take months can now take weeks. Things that used to take weeks can now take days. So if you're like, well, I'm trying to like manifest my business growing, and I'm trying to manifest losing weight and seeing so faster, I'm trying to manifest this and this, however that looks with manifestation, like things are going to start showing up also faster than they used to. But that's where I say, like, be careful what you wish for, right?
Oh,
because
yeah. Okay.
you may be like, well, this is what I want, and then next week you get it, you're like, is that really what I wanted?
Like, you just got your papers, you're fired.
Like, I thought I was going to have more time to think about it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. No, this is good. I think it's good. Like, for somebody who drags their feet and has a hard time making, you know, choices or moves that maybe I should make, but I'm like, I'm scared. This is good, right? Because sometimes you just need to be pushed off the edge and then just do it.
Yeah. I mean, for some of us, it's for a lot of people, it's going to be good. For some other people, it's going to be, I always say, with all this fire energy, it's important to make sure we're not being, a quote I often say, especially in client sessions with people, I'm like, with all of this fire that we're stepping into next year, it's important to be proactive and not reactive.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Right. Because the energy is you're going to want to feel reactive. And the other thing about like a lot of the astrology that's happening next year, especially when Saturn moves into Aries, is like righteousness in your reaction. Right.
Like feeling confident in your reaction, but also like
Aries is the war. So a lot of these planets are moving into Aries, right? So Aries is the here we go.
There's your balloons.
There's your balloons.
I don't know how to turn this off. Somebody in the comments can tell me how to turn off this feature, because Zoom keeps giving me balloons and stuff, and I don't know where it's coming from. I mean, it's fun, but sometimes I'm like, I want to talk about something serious, and now there's balloons showing up, right? Like what we talked about with Sag placements earlier.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
But yeah, a lot of it's going to feel like righteous, because Aries is the warrior, right? It's the trailblazer, it's the leader, it's the pioneer, but it is the fighter, it's the warrior. It's like, let's fight for something, right? Pisces, so interesting, because a lot of these planets are going from Pisces to Aries. Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac, and Aries is the first. So a lot of what we're seeing now is a culmination of things and endings that need to happen before the Aries energy that we step into is going to like rebirth something brand new. So when we're collectively moving into this Aries energy, it's not just fiery, it's not just warrior energy, it's also about like brand new fresh starts and new beginnings that we've never seen before, that we can't even like conceptualize yet, because it hasn't existed in our lifetime.
Interesting. I wonder how that's going to show up.
Last time Neptune was in Aries was in the 1800s, and the US went into civil war, right? So wow, like, a lot of the astrology that we're stepping into, we haven't seen in our lifetime. Has it existed in the past? Yes, but not while we've been alive and conscious in our lifetime, right?
It's just in our history books.
Yeah, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius is when the United States was founded. Right. And the Declaration of Independence was signed, and now we're back here. And suddenly we're stepping into this warrior fighter energy. Like, I'm angry and I'm righteous in my anger. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to reveal a lot of things that were founded the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, right? The United States was founded as the United States of America. We are not a United States of America right now.
No.
You're divided states of America.
Right. And that's what Pluto is exposing. So Pluto's going to expose, hey, this country was founded to be the United States of America. Look at the evolution of the past 248 years, 250 years of where you guys have come from here. Yeah. How do we get you to unite again? And for some people, that's going to look like rebellion, revolution, fighting for a cause, fighting for a purpose.
Yeah.
And fighting can be good or fighting can be bad, right?
Yeah.
Both sides of that. And people are going to feel really righteous in their fighting because they're like, I've been lied to. I'm angry. Like, who do I blame for this?
Right. And what can I do about it? So do you think that you guys will see a civil war, or something that to that scale of like righteousness and anger and frustration?
Okay, so previously when Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the US Revolutionary War, where the people rebelled, right? The US broke free from the British. We had the French Revolutionary War, where there was a revolution and uprising of the people and they killed their own king. Then previously, when we had another similar transit that we're entering next year, Uranus is moving into Gemini. Historically, every time Uranus was in Gemini, the US has gone to war. We had, again, the Revolutionary War was also around that time period. We had the US Civil War. And then we also, that was the time period, that was the year that the United States entered World War II. World War II had already been going on, but when Uranus moved into Gemini, that's when the US got involved with World War II. Okay. And so that's another astrology transit that we're entering next year in July. And then on top of that, Neptune is moving into Aries. And when that's happening March 30th. And historically, when that happened was when also the US went into civil war. Literally the week Neptune moved into Aries, we went into a civil war. So
every single time.
So any of these transits could implement war. And then we're having all three is what I'm saying.
I see. So in history, every time that transit happened in the US entered
a war of some kind, and that all three of those are going to start
happening in 2025. Interesting, because like I keep hearing people talking about how your president is teasing Canadians that they'll be the 51st state of the United States. Have you heard that?
I have heard it. I don't listen. So much of what Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring is innovation beyond what we've known as possible.
That's
so
good.
Anybody who thinks they know exactly what's coming is bullshit.
No way.
Because the stuff that previous iterations of this has, like, okay, I'll give you an example. 2 previous iterations of this, of Pluto in Aquarius, the printing press was formed. At the time, the church rebelled against this because they were like, we can't have things being printed on paper because we can't have people accessing books. They can't know things, right? So there was a lot of rebellion against that of like, well, we can't have people learning things. And all of a sudden, not only did books start being formed, but people were able to start building personal libraries in their homes, and they started to learn things for the first time, right? Up until that point, people didn't even know what their anatomy looked like because they'd never seen a book that even showed what the human body looked like internally until a book was printed and you were able to, the only people that knew what the human anatomy looked like were surgeons who were cutting into people, right? Before that, no one knew. So look what's happened because of printing books, how much we've evolved as a society. Right? So there's been so much, and there's other iterations of like so much evolution beyond what we know is even possible right now. So not surprising that we've already started to see a taste of this with AI taking off, Bitcoin taking off. Elon Musk is creating robots, right? That may look like humans eventually. There's so much that what we're seeing now is just the beginning of the innovation of where we're headed. So anyone who knows exactly how it can manifest, I think, again, is bullshitting you, because do you think people when the printing press was formed knew exactly what it meant when we were going to start to have books? Not necessarily.
No.
Yeah. And there was fear there, obviously, like when you say like the church and stuff, like there's be fears on different levels, because really that was empowering people, the books of having knowledge, because like now we're empowered.
Power back to the people, which
power
is
back to the
Pluto
people.
In Aquarius. Pluto's all about power, and Aquarius is about the people taking their
Yes.
power.
Yeah. And like having that. And so then now with the technology, like you can see both sides of polarity. You have some that are like, oh my God, this is great. This is allowing us to do X, Y, Z that we couldn't do. And then you have the other side where there is fear, because as we know with anything, everything can be used in light or in dark. And, you know, is there that fear or that chatter about, oh, well, these AI robots, like what happens if they go wrong? Like, because we've been fed that through movies and stuff. And so you have both sides, but that's the thing, you know, you're going to have
like
the fear of the unknown. Yeah. That's
like the internet, right?
Yeah.
Like when the internet first came out 30 years ago, people were freaking out. Y2K, the world's going to end.
I remember that.
Right? Like all of us are going to lose our jobs. We're never going to work again because the internet is here.
Yeah.
The opposite happened, right? Like people got more jobs than ever. People have virtual businesses now. There were conglomerates that started to be born, right? Like without the internet, we wouldn't have Google, we wouldn't have Amazon, we wouldn't have Facebook, we wouldn't have all of these
more
like
knowledge again.
Right. More knowledge, also more connection with people, right? Like before I couldn't talk to someone in high school unless I like went back home and I went to visit or picked up the phone and happened to have their phone number. Now you can talk to anybody at any time.
Yeah.
Has there been downsides to the internet? Hell yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's been a lot of toxic stuff on the internet. There's been a lot of dangerous stuff. There's been a lot of hacking and people's personal information. Like, again, like you said, there's the polarity of both sides. So with AI specifically and all this progression, are we going to see both sides? We're going to see all of the like new innovation things that are going to be progressing humanity forward, but we're also going to see some of the downsides. And that is also with Saturn and Neptune and what they're doing. These two planets have been in Pisces together. They're both going to move into Aries. More balloons.
It's your two fingers.
And she like
start doing this instead. Right? They're gonna start moving into Aries now, which is a very different sign. Saturn and Neptune have very different purposes. Okay. These two planets are not only switching signs, but they're going to keep staying close to each other while they switch signs. Okay. So the full conjunction of these two doesn't happen until the beginning of 2026, which is when we're really going to feel it. However, this will keep building and building and building and building and building until then. So we're already starting to get a taste of this already. And the way this manifests is Neptune. When you understand what these two archetypes of these planets are, it can kind of give you an idea of how this can manifest. So Neptune is a planet that is all about fantasy, right? Just like disassociation a little bit, fantasy, possibility, imagination, dreams, right? But it's also the planet of distortion of reality, disillusionment, and wearing like rose-colored glasses, right? Only seeing like the potential or like the good side of something. Saturn does the opposite. Saturn is a reality check planet. It's the planet of maturity, responsibility. It comes in and gives you a reality check, whether you like it or not, whether you're ready or not. That's why Saturn returns tend to be challenging for some people, because it gives you that reality check of like, hey, it's time to grow the fuck up. It's time to mature. It's the reality of your life. Like, what are you going to do about it? Right? It's very humbling. And so Neptune wants you to fall in love with the fantasy that it's bringing you. And Saturn's coming in and saying, but what's real?
Oh gosh. That's confusing.
So it is.
Yes. You're like this, you're getting ping pong.
So what I've been saying is this is going to be like an increased distortion of reality. And we're already starting to see this with AI specifically, right? How many videos have you already seen where you can't quite tell what's real and what's AI?
Right.
Oh, so
or
many.
Even pictures or all that sort of stuff.
Pictures, yeah, like of history and stuff. Like, yeah. Which is scary.
So it's very scary. But now it's moving into a warrior energy, a fighter energy, who wants to fight, who wants to put something ablaze, who wants to take action, who wants to initiate. And now we're also in this energy of like rebellion and revolution. This could look like something going out on the internet that's false.
Yeah.
You don't even know what's real. And suddenly now people are angry or violent or impulsive about it. And they're taking action on something. Because that's
not even real.
That's not even real.
Holy shit.
That's not good.
No.
So how do you discern? Discernment is the other word that I've been using a lot of in this upcoming year. Discernment is key. If you can't tell what you are watching, if it's real, not real, if it's, you know, this also shows up in social media, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
we just saw this manifest in the US with this past election, right? Where some people are like, I can't believe this happened. And other people are like, I can believe it happened. What do you mean? What kind of reality are you living in?
Yeah.
And so this is very evident in social media. When you go online on any social media channel, the algorithm will show you what you want to see, right? You watch something on YouTube, how many times do you go back on YouTube and there's like, hey, based on your watch history, we recommend this, we recommend this, we recommend this, we recommend this. Because they want to keep you on the app. So it's going to keep showing you things that you want to watch. But it's not going to show you the whole picture of what's really going on. It's only showing you one thing, what you want to watch.
Yeah,
So
it becomes your reality.
Right. The reality you're choosing.
Yeah.
That's why so much like distortion happened around this election in the US, because some people were watching one thing, some people were watching another thing, and some people were very shocked by the outcome because they're like, I don't understand. Everything I saw was showing me this. And I'm like, well, you just told me everything you saw was showing you this, which means you didn't see the big picture of how everyone else is feeling, however, you know, what else is really going on. I'm not saying one side is right or one side is wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying this reality that we've been fed is only showing you, again, what you want to see. So how did you discern the difference? The only way you're going to be able to discern anything next year between all of this, like, false information, false narratives, this, that, like all of these things, is going to be if you spend time with yourself, you get quiet with yourself, you start meditating, you start, like, the more you look for answers outside of you, the more confused you're going to be.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to know who to trust and who to listen to.
Yeah.
You don't even know what's real.
No, absolutely. So you have to like feel it in your body.
Right. But when you meditate and you're not hearing the outside noise, your body will tell you what's real.
Right? Well, you'll have that skill now to recognize what your body is telling you. And that's what happens.
You'll watch a video and you'll be like, that doesn't feel right.
That's not,
You watch the video and you're like, oh, I really feel aligned with that.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to the comments. Like I know a lot of us will move to the comments, and I'm guilty of that too, where all of a sudden you're just like, then you're like reading what everybody else is saying, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm on that train, whatever they're saying, type of thing. I'm so guilty of that. So
yeah, I do the same. Right?
Yeah.
Especially with cat videos. I'm like, I want to see what all the cat lovers are saying and all. You know.
It's so true. I know.
Yeah, they're on my side. You know,
it's so true. I know. I'm like, and then when you see things in, you know, in the media of polarity, so let's just even say, what is this, the newest one? It's to do with, I can't even think. It ends with us, the two stars.
Blake Lively and
but you know, even in all of those, because we've seen so many different things like this come that surface up, and there's two groups, there's two camps,
more division and
more division. Yeah. And it's like going back and forth, and you go into the comments, because then you're sitting there going, oh man, like I was on this side at the beginning, now I'm like, should I be on this side? Was I wrong on that
remember
side?
We're still in this energy of distorted reality. How do you even know that comment or that video is even what is really going on?
Is even like it's so crazy. It's so crazy. And it's like, okay, turn out all the noise, stop looking at the comments, and just sit with it and be like, okay, what feels right or correct to me? I guess, instead of being turned into that, because I know I've been like, I don't know, like, tell me what I should think. God, so much of it.
So now imagine this on like a global scale.
Oh my goodness,
it's gonna be messy. That's gonna be messy.
Yeah, I heard, I don't like to really watch other astrologer videos ever, really, because I don't want to be influenced with anything I'm seeing. Right. But I heard another astrologer briefly, like, you know, because sometimes stuff comes up on my feed, even though I don't agree with some of other people's predictions and stuff sometimes, but somebody said, like, I'm calling March Madness. And I was like, well, that seems very fitting. Not just because, like, I guess people who follow basketball, like, that's normally a thing. March Madness is a thing. With the astrology, March is going to be one of the craziest months we've probably ever seen in a long time. We have a Venus retro on March 1st. We have a Venus retrograde in Aries. Then we have This is also eclipse season in March. We have an eclipse, then we have a Mercury retrograde in Aries, then we have a Venus cazimi in Aries, then we have another eclipse, and then Neptune moves into Aries. So it's like, and another eclipse in Aries at the end
Oh
of the
my gosh.
So it's like Aries, 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 Aries. Back. So we're like fire, 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 back to back. So March is going to be an explosive month. It's going to set the stage for a lot of things moving into the next year. There's a lot of other astrology that's going to help like facilitate a lot of these changes, but we're going to see a lot of the shifts not just start in the new year, but really reach a peak and ahead in March. That's going to be like that's a huge catalyst month for sure. And because it's an Aries, although Aries likes new beginnings and fresh starts, it is the first sign in the zodiac. The way it can do it can be very explosive, can be very reactionary, can be very impulsive. And there could be it could be also a lot of anger. And okay, I'll give you an example. I just did my webinar because I have a webinar series that I'm doing right now where I'm going into detail about all of the astrology for 2025, and I go week by week, month by month. In my webinar, just talking about January to March took me 3 hours because there was so much to cover. That was just the first quarter, and I'm doing it like every weekend right now. So if people want to buy the bundle or whatever, they're able to. If they want to buy the one-offs, that's also possible. It's on my website. But what I'm saying is there's so much to talk about with, like, I had 3 hours worth of knowledge and information to give to people just talking about the first 3 months.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Of the new year. So that's how much stuff is going to happen and change and shift. And a lot of what I was describing is Aries this is like that self-righteous anger, right? Where Aries, a good example of this is, I don't know if you guys remember what was happening in mid-October, but mid-October, we had a full moon in Aries on October 17th, 2024. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember what was happening on October 17th, 2024, but I remember what was happening. And the reason why I remember is because the amount of people that were messaging me, DMing me, like, what the fuck is going on? I'm so angry. I just exploded on my husband. I just exploded on my kids. What is going on? I got into a road rage fight. I got into this. I even saw a side of myself that I didn't expect to see. I ended up getting into a not so nice altercation or fight with the receptionist at my dentist's office.
Oh,
I feel like I had a right to, because they were trying to double charge me hundreds of dollars. I already prepaid for something and they were trying to charge me again. But the older version of me would have been like, it's okay, just send me a bill. I'll figure it out later. And this time I was like, no, you are not ripping me off. You are not double charging me. Get your manager out here and we're going to clear this up right now. And I was like, I got in my car after that and I was like, where did that come from?
Who was that?
That?
You stood in your power.
Yeah, but it was
righteous energy.
Right? Like, did I need to do it in that way? I probably could have been nicer about it, but I was so angry that someone was trying to like rip me off that I was like, oh no, you can't just rip me off. Like, I'm going to make sure you clear this up. I saw a side of myself that I didn't even expect to see in myself because I don't have any Aries in my chart at all. And I felt that fire. So think about all of this activity in Aries that's happening back to back to back to back to back to back in March.
Yeah.
This is like that explosive energy where people are going to feel fire under them that they're not used to feeling. And they may react in ways that even surprise them. Like, I knew that full moon was coming and I was warning people in my stories, guys, there's a lot of fighting this week. There's a lot of fire. There's a lot of anger. I like maybe false confidence was like, okay, I know what's happening. So I feel like I can be above this. And then the second I went into that office and they were like, we're going to double charge you. And I was like, what? No, you're not. What are you talking about? And I was like,
gosh.
well, I was like, ooh, this is feisty. I don't know how I feel about this.
Wow.
So I'm like, what March is going to look like
daily.
I feel like I want to just like I want to hermit.
All of March. The irony is skip March, hermit, but then you'll be fighting with your family members at home.
Oh my god!
Listen, I'm not saying you need to hermit yourself. I'm just saying, like, this is going to be a month where we're going to see like lots more videos of Karens on the internet. We're going to see a lot more videos of like people yelling at gate agents at the airport.
Just make sure it's not yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not get ourselves on there.
We're gonna see more. Even that week that we had that full moon in Aries in October, my best friend was texting me. She's like, "There's so many angry people on the road right now. Like the way they're driving, it's just like people are."
Now I want to like go back and try to.
I'm looking. Where was I October 17th?
I know. I'm like, what was I doing? And I'm like, was it an angry week?
I was headed to Mexico that day.
Were you?
Yeah,
What
I was
happened?
traveling.
Go up in your life? Do you remember?
I don't remember anything significant on that day.
Great.
I know. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. But
So
other
All that
travelers.
Libra in your chart, that is the opposite of Aries, that
Yeah.
balances you out, you know.
There you go. There you go.
So interesting.
I know.
I'm not saying everyone needs to be angry. Don't think like, oh,
Yeah.
you're giving me permission right now, right? It just means like a lot of this is about just having self-awareness. And with people with strong Aries placements, I always say, listen, I don't want you suppressing your emotions. I just want you to take a deep breath before reacting, right? We want to be proactive, not
reactive.
Yes.
And that's the same with like everybody else. So being prepared for other people's energy through the month of March to come at you. Right. So how are you gonna proactively prepare for that? It's called meditation. Center yourself.
Meditation, and also realizing that if someone's like picking a fight with you or being angry about something, it maybe isn't even personal. It's just like them projecting whatever their own shit is onto you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone needs to be the bigger person,
Mm-hmm.
but like where can you also, like, because so much of the energy is going to move into fire and air, we're stepping away from a lot of earth. So where can you ground? How are you grounding yourself? For some people that looks like meditation. For some people it looks like going outside in nature, like spending some time hiking, you know, being amongst trees, like whatever that looks like. I don't know where everyone lives, that's going to be watching. Maybe you still have snow in March, so you can't really do that. But how can you ground your nervous system throughout some of the chaos that may show up this month?
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's interesting because March, in 2020, I don't know what was happening in the stars then, but March was a pretty significant month for all of us in 2020. So interesting that it's March again.
Well, Saturn actually moved into Aquarius in March 2020, which is really interesting because Saturn is the planet, Jupiter is the planet that comes in and expands and grows.
Saturn
does the opposite. Saturn restricts and limits. So
we were restricted and limited.
Right. So Saturn feels like you have to work twice as hard to get the same results, right? We talked about this briefly before we started recording. Saturn feels restrictive. Saturn moved into Aquarius in March 2020. Aquarius is about humanity and the people.
Interesting.
So a planet of restriction moved into a sign that is all about the collective and the people, and suddenly everyone was restricted in their homes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through again in March what's happening with the planets again in March. So the big ones are is Neptune.
Neptune at the end of the month on March 30th is moving into Aries, which is going to be this planet of like fantasy and
distortion,
but also distortion. Neptune is interesting because when Neptune first shows up, you kind of fall in love with the fantasy and the possibility and the potential. And then as you see the reality of it, it causes disillusionment once you see what's going on. And towards the end of the cycle. So the way that I described it, I did a webinar this morning. The way I described it in the webinar was like, it's like somebody who like moves to Hollywood, who's like, I'm so attracted to the fame and the glamour and the fortune and all this stuff. And then they like end up at a Diddy party and they're like, whoa, this is what really Hollywood, like
this is what Hollywood is.
The reality.
Come behind the curtain.
Right. This is like Neptune shit where you like get drawn in by the fantasy. And then when you see the curtain, it's very different. And in Aries, it's a warrior sign. So you're going to want to be like fighting. You're going to want to step into warrior energy. You're going to want to be, since so much of the astrology is like building to the US somehow getting involved in some type of war, whether that's an international war, whether that's a civil war, this could be like a fantasy or glorification of fighting and war. Where suddenly people are like, well, I want to fight for my country. This looks so positive. This looks so incredible. This looks so opportunistic. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then when you actually go there and the reality sets in, like, holy shit, I could die.
Yeah. You're like, this is awful.
Interesting.
I didn't realize I signed up for this. So this could also show up in like our news and on social media, right? This distortion of reality where suddenly you're seeing ads for like join the army, fight for your country. Like this will pay for your college, will pay for your education. Like, look out for your, like,
Help your fellow
help your
man.
fellow,
like
help your fellow citizens and fight.
We've heard, we heard that message not too long ago, in another type of, campaign after 2020, right? Like there so we see it, right? You saw those campaigns of like, do this,
keep your elders safe,
like be a good citizen. And so the same with the war, you can see
so
exactly.
a lot of it's going to be about, like, again, righteous anger. You need to fight for your country, your freedom.
You need to be a good person.
You need to fight for it. And then people are going to, the way it can manifest is like glorifying war, and people are like, I want to go to war, let's go to war, I'm ready.
And you're not
right? Like, you're the problem. Why don't you want to fight for your stuff? And it can manifest in extreme ways like that. And for the people that are watching or listening who have children that are in drafting age, this could be where like suddenly your kid comes home and like, I'm joining the Marines, and you as a parent are like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not saying it's good or bad.
I know.
Judge that, right? But it could be where suddenly, like, this illusion of what that means, you fall for the fantasy of what it means instead of the reality is very different, where suddenly you're like, oh, but war can mean death, war can mean violence, war can mean like a lot of other things that I didn't realize I was signing up.
Trauma,
PTSD, right? Like, I was saying this in my webinar this morning too, where I said, like, the glorification of it, but then what happens after war, right? The people that survive and make it home, the US does not take care of their veterans. Very often these people can't find jobs. Very often these people are on the street and they're homeless. There's not a lot of resources to help them, and they have PTSD and they don't have a lot of resources to help them with their mental health. And they're like, it takes a toll on you to go into another country and fight and watch people die. Like, that is not an thing to witness. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. Right? So this could be where like we're being fed this like disillusioned reality of like, we need to do this.
And that's going to be in March, you think?
Well, the end of March is when this ingress first starts. Neptune's been there for several years over and over. I think that's going to be like the beginning of probably some of those like pushes or maybe campaigns or however you want to articulate it, to go towards that.
Yep. This
I don't think March 30th suddenly we're going to end up in war.
No.
I mean, maybe, guys, who knows?
I know.
But it could be that, like, remember, Saturn and Neptune are going to cause this like distortion of reality. Don't quite know what's real. So suddenly something gets leaked or is on the internet or something, and people are suddenly like, well, now I want to go to war based on this video, like I said earlier. But now you don't even know if the video is real or not. So now you're entering war on false pretenses. False reality, false.
You're lied to.
Which is also going to make people angry, right?
Interesting. Okay, so we had Pluto go into Aquarius already, and so is that the next big placements in March, or the next big placements?
Well, we also have eclipses in March back to back. That's also going to happen. Yes, the next big planetary shift is March 30th. That's Neptune moving into Aries. That's one of the next biggest ones. And then Saturn is going to join in and move into Aries on May 24th. And Saturn likes to restrict, remember? So Neptune's going to come in and feed you a fantasy for 2 months. Hey guys, this is why you want to do this. And Saturn's going to come in and be like, here's the reality though.
Okay. So wait till May.
You want to fight, but Saturn's going to come in and be like, but what does that really mean?
Yeah.
So another reason why I'm saying March can be an explosive month, because people may act on impulse and reaction. And a few months later, suddenly the reality sets in of the decisions they made. They're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have quite done that yet.
Interesting. Okay. So it's kind of like, let's pause and maybe, like, if you get that feeling, be like, okay, I'm going to hold on that.
Saturn also does not like to be in Aries. Okay. Saturn in Aries it's in its fall. certain planets thrive in certain signs. They're exalted, or they like really manifest in beautiful ways. Other planets, when they're in their fall, they don't like to be there. Saturn doesn't function well in Aries. Okay.
And
Saturn,
how long is it there for?
2.5 years.
Oh gosh.
In and out, in and out. It's gonna retrograde, and it's going to move back into Pisces on September 1st.
Okay.
And then it's going to stay in Pisces where it's at right now, by the way. It's going to stay in Pisces from September 1st to, I think it's like February 13th, 2026. So right around Valentine's Day, 2026. So it's like he's going to get a taste of the fire pool, and then he's going to go back to Pisces and be like, all right, let's wrap things up here.
Yeah.
Or I dive fully into the fire. For those of you who are listening who have Saturn and Aries in your birth chart, you're going to start your Saturn return. Or you're going to go through your second or third Saturn return.
Okay.
For those of you who have Saturn in Pisces, who have been in your Saturn return, you're going to get a break. You're going to get a reprieve. You're going to be like, ooh, hallelujah, he's out of there. But he's not out of there for good, because he's going to come back around in the fall.
Yeah.
And in 2026, just to like tie up loose ends and finalize any maturity lessons that he needs to teach you, right? But Saturn is cautious. It likes to plan things out. And Aries is risk-taking and impulsive. So Saturn in the sign doesn't like to be there. It's the opposite of what he wants to be in, right? I want to take my time to build something, right? That's why he causes delays, because he wants you to take your time and be consistent with your effort to build something. And Aries is like, fuck that. I needed to take action yesterday.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. So there's like this tension there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Uranus moves into Gemini on July 7th. July 7th? Yeah, I believe so. Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure it's either the 6th or the 7th. Yeah, July 7th. And Uranus, however you choose to pronounce that planet, is a planet of shock, unexpected things, unexpected events, surprise, right? That's why when people go through a midlife crisis and do shocking things, that's the Uranian transit in their chart. It's called a Uranus opposition. So that's why they do very Uranian like things and rebellious things, right? Of, like dyeing their hair blue, or getting a sports car, or quitting their career and starting a new one, and all these things, right? They're like, I'm going to rebel, and I'm going to do this, and fuck all you people, and I'm going to, do my
Wow.
I love it.
Pluto is like rebellious for like the sake of revolution and change and transformation. Uranus is just rebellious for the sake of like freedom. Like, I don't want to conform. Right?
Okay.
Like, I've been in this cage, I've been in this box, I'm trying to rebel against it. That's very Uranian. So it moves into a different sign. It's been in our sign, Taurus, since 2018. It's also the planet of like instability, right? It's shocking. You don't really know what to expect. Anyone who's like, this is exactly what's going to happen with Uranus, I'm like, how can you expect anything with Uranus? Because it is the planet of unexpected things, right? So like we can figure out how we think it's going to manifest, but this is the planet of unpredictability, and you're like, how can we predict it?
Yeah, how do you predict it?
So it's been in Taurus, and Taurus is a sign that's all about earth. It's also about money. So we've had a lot of like fluctuations and instability with like money, Bitcoin, the stock market, the housing market, like all of these things since 2018, when it first came in there. There's been a lot of like fluctuations here. And now it's going to move into Gemini, which is a sign about duality and two different sides. Okay. I've learned not to use
like,
it's a sign about duality, two different signs, right? More division. It's also a sign that is all about information, knowledge, travel,
communication.
Yes, communication. Like, it's not just communication for the sake of talking. Well, although a lot of Geminis, communication for the sake of talking, but also communication for the sake of sharing knowledge and information, right? What are you reading? What are you absorbing? And how are you sharing it?
Yeah.
Right. So suddenly this planet of unpredictability is going into a sign that's about knowledge and information. And also travel and, all of these things. So it can shift things with how we communicate with each other. It can shift things with what we're reading. It could shift with, and Saturn and Neptune are still together in Aries. So they're going to again, continued distortion of knowledge and information. It's like back to the astrology is kind of sending similar messages, even though the planets are switching in different signs, where you really know what to believe, or you know what to believe, but you're so divided on one side versus like your neighbor or your family member or your spouse, because they're seeing one side that's letting them believe what they want to believe, and you're seeing your side, what's letting you believe what you want to believe.
Yeah. So like 2025, it seems like so far is going to be a year of like, it's going to be a big part is the trusting and discernment. Like it feels like that's going to amp up, that what we are seeing isn't necessarily real, and we have to be even more.
But the thing is, it could be real.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like you don't know what to believe, or
you don't know what to believe. No. And
right?
I do feel like we've had a taste of that this year, where there has just been more and more where people are saying, oh no, that's AI. I can't believe you people thought this was real. Like so many times I go to a photo and I'm like,
drones, all the things that are going on with the
right?
Everyone has a different opinion about it. Someone's not telling the truth about something, right? Some people are saying, well, I also saw like an orb or UFO next to a drone, and someone's like, well, they must be related, and someone else is like, well, they're not related. The drones are coming from the government, the UFOs are something totally different. Like people are like, what is going on? Like I'm confused. What do I believe, right? Which is real, what is real, and what isn't real? And everybody's got a phone, everyone's got an opinion, and everyone can record stuff and they're going to share it. So a lot of this also with Pluto and Uranus and all these other things moving, right? Like a lot of this is about power and power dynamics. And because so much of the energy is around technology, this could be also like things in positions of power, whether it's governments or whatever, however that looks like, trying to control the way we get information, trying to control what we're absorbing, trying to control how we share information. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is increased censorship. We're already starting to see some of this happen, right? With TikTok might be banned. I don't know when this episode is going to air, but TikTok might be banned in the US in January. Unless it's bought by someone or something. There's a lot of already limitations. I know I read recently that like Australia has started to ban social media for certain children or teenagers. Like if you're under, I think 16 or a certain age, you're not allowed to be on social media. Like we're already starting to see a lot of this like powers at play that are trying to restrict how we absorb knowledge and information. And now planet's going to move in that's going to be unstable, unpredictable. It could be shocking and surprising in a good way. It could also be shocking and surprising in an unexpected way, right? So that's going to add more flavor into what we've already been experiencing all year thus far.
It's like so interesting, because even like the did I lose it? Did that thought just, oh no, like in Canada, this year we saw a restriction on not being able to access news or stuff. Like I forget what it was. There was something on social media where it was like Canada was like, oh no, you can't view this because it's against, and it was like, excuse me. Like what the hell? Like just the craziest shit where you're like, I never thought I would hear that,
that's going to increase next year.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Right. So how do you know what to believe? Because what you should be seeing is now restricted, but what you're allowed to see is probably something they want you to see or want you to believe.
Exactly.
Fabricated.
Exactly.
Or not. When the government, when they finally admit, or the US, to clarify, the US government finally admitted that there were aliens, right? And that they've known about it. I don't know if you guys remember, but in January of 2020, there was an incident at the Miami Mall in Miami. Where people spotted real life aliens in the mall.
Wasn't that last year or the year before?
No, this year. It was January 2024.
Yes.
I know.
Okay.
Yes, it was, because Mandy, you and I went.
Yes,
there's so much that happened, and that was like a big one. And I remember Mandy and I tapping into that and everything. So like, that was a crazy one.
Right. So what happened? Everything got scrubbed off the internet. Nobody believed anybody because they're like, if you have a video, show me the proof. And the person's like, I can't show you the proof. The FBI confiscated my phone and took the video from me, right? And there was a lot of like gaslighting, a lot of people being ignored. During this government UFO conference that they had this past November, they were like, oh yeah, by the way, guess what? Miami, those aliens in the mall, that actually happened. That was real. So now
did they admit that? Holy shit. But do you know what I'm finding very amazing and odd is all of a sudden now it's just like, this has been decades and decades of speculation, and then it's squashed, speculation, squash, stories that come out and then they're squashed. And all of a sudden, just casually, they're like, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, cool. And starts going on. And I'm like, what? Like, this should be headlines. Like, this has been something that people like, oh my God, like how many people have been like, oh, conspiracy theorists, or you're like wacko. And it's literally as if it's like, cool. What? Even the drones. I'm sitting here going, okay, in what fucking reality do we have stuff flying in the sky? And you're telling me the government is not coming out and saying, we have an announcement to make. This is this and this and this, whether it's from here, not from here, whatever the fuck it is. Seriously? Or we're all just sitting in the dark. There's something in the sky that we're like, I don't know what that is. And they're all over the place.
Nothing can shock us anymore. We're just like, okay.
But nobody's even like holding anybody accountable, like the government accountable to be like, well, if you're saying you don't know what it is, figure it out.
You're going to storm the White House and be like, tell me what these drones are.
I know, but it's just so crazy.
Get answers, but they're just not getting answers.
So in March,
absurd.
When March hits and all this fiery Aries energy comes in, maybe we'll get our answers.
Which would be nice. I just wonder about the people that are asleep or whatever the heck, like I just think of like, people in my life that, don't like, they're kind of like, oh yeah, I know what you do. Cool. But they're very like entrenched into like CNN and the news and what they're hearing and stuff. And so this drone thing is a little out there, right? Like it's a little out there. I wonder what they're thinking, because I'm like, in my head, I'm going, oh, I'm sitting there going like, yes, bring on the weirdness. I love it. But then I'm thinking, what about the conservative, like my parents are, are you sitting there going like, what? Wait a minute. Like, what is this? Because you should be, because you have kind of been, blinded to anything of that. And now we're actually seeing.
There's a reason why the saying ignorance is bliss is so popular. Yeah. Because people want to believe what they want to believe, and people will see what they like. I had very much my own reality check. A former boss that I worked for was once arguing with me about how, you guys are Canadian, so you can probably correct me here, how Canada is closer to Russia than Alaska is.
Okay. I'm like pulling up a map right now.
Well, how, like, if you go west in Canada, his argument was you can see Russia. And I'm like, but you can't because Alaska is there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'm like, so funny because
because you're right.
We had a debate and I pulled up a map.
It's Alaska.
Yeah, like Alaska's
to show this person, and he literally took the globe and the map and twisted it, and he's like, but if you look at it from this perspective, you'll see what I'm talking about. And there was and I'm like, but the map hasn't changed, it's still the same map. And I realized in that moment, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter how much evidence you show some people will still believe and see what they want to believe and see.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
When you said that about,
I literally showed this person where Alaska was and how it's close to Russia.
It's literally almost touching. Alaska and Russia almost touch.
He said it, not me, right?
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
And he was like, no, but if you look here on this side, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, so this person just wants to believe what they like, right? What they want to believe. So we're gonna see some really big shifts in polarity of like people waking up and like wanting to know the fucking truth, and other people wanting to stay ignorant.
Not wanting to. Yeah. Okay. So even if it's like, dude,
in your face,
like it's right in your face. Like, do you not see that? And they're like, no, I do not. I'm just looking over here. So that makes sense. And you know, some people are going to wake up, and then some people are still going to be like,
a lot of people are going to wake
talk.
up next year. A lot of the
Good.
astrology back to back to back is going to cause mass awakenings.
Okay.
The problem is because it's happening in so many fire signs, it can be awakenings can manifest as anger, right? For a lot of us, when we had spiritual awakenings, it was due to like trauma. It was due to a crisis, or is due to a death or a loss or something in our lives, an ego death, however that looks, right? And you had time to like sit there and unpack shit and go inward and meditate and talk about it in therapy and figure out what the fuck is going on, right? Now we're moving into energy that's very different. So now imagine people waking up, but now it's going to feel like you've been sleeping and your mom woke you up too soon.
And you're a teenager.
You're like, I wanted to sleep more.
And you're like, get away
and then
from
you wake
me.
up and you're angry and you're like pissed off in the morning because you woke up sooner than you wanted to wake up.
And then your whole day is ruined.
Oh no.
Because you're broody the rest of the day. Great.
So we have to sit there like this. Just joys of smiles. Hi.
No, not fake smiling, but I think a lot of this is going to look, I think for us, the people that have already, I got this like insane download when I was meditating today that was like people who have had really hard struggles and have had ego deaths, spiritual awakenings, all of these like challenges in their life the past several years is because they're supposed to be guides and teachers.
And hold space.
And hold space.
And help them walk through it. Yeah, I feel that.
A lot of this is not just going to be about discernment, but it's also going to be about having compassion for the people that are waking up, that you've been waiting to wake up, but they may not handle the wake up in the best way that maybe
graciously. Yeah.
Like, so this is where the compassion side comes in, the patience side, the empathy side of, all right, how do I hold space for this person? Because they're just waking up to the fact that like, oh, the government lied to me about aliens. What else have they been lying to me about?
And sharing your light. Like, I think, you know, vibrationally, when you think of that, if we're going to have a huge vibrational shift of like this kind of like snapping into this and being like, what the fuck, you know, the people who have walked that path, you know, being able to hold your vibration, being able to hold that light as best as you can is going to help, you know, even out and support and, you know, bring people, you know, through that. And I absolutely agree. I have felt that, even more strongly lately, where it feels like some of the trials and tribulations that I've personally gone through is intentional, so that I can help others move through it. And how can you do that for somebody when you haven't walked that path yourself? Right. Yeah. So
having that compassion, having that patience, and also realizing, and it doesn't mean you have to push, right? If someone's waking up, you're like, okay, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this, right? It's like, when they're ready, they will come find you, and you have the tools and the support and to show up whichever way you need to. But it may not look the way you want it to look, and it may not manifest in the way that you think it is. Like you may be like, well, when I had my ego death, I went to therapy and I did this. I didn't start like arguing with my neighbor every day. Right. But people are going to handle things differently. Right.
Yeah.
This is where the compassion part comes in of like, not that everyone has to be a bigger person, but everyone who's already awake, there's a reason. There's a reason you woke up before everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always kind of find like you walk your path, and others are watching you, whether you know it or not. So you just keep doing you and what feels good for you, and just understand that people are watching and listening, and, you know, and they're going to take what they can and what they want from it. But I find like being that guiding light, then when they're ready, then they kind of like step into it or whatever. But it's like, you just keep doing it your way and know that people are witnessing it. I feel like I've experienced that many times where I think, oh God, nobody's like listening. And then all of a sudden someone comes up to you and they're like, oh my gosh, like you really inspire me, and like all of these things. And you're like, what? No clue. So just keep doing you, I guess. Right. Yeah.
It's also like, because of all this Aries energy, Aries is that we're moving into, Aries is not just the first sign in the zodiac and the warrior, but it's also Aries always wants to be first, right? It's like the initiator, the trailblazer, the leader. Aries, people with a lot of Aries in their chart, they don't wait for doors to open. They open them.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, if you're in my way, get out of the way so I can get through here. Right? And they're unapologetic about it, which is a good thing about them, right? It's super inspiring, right?
Absolutely.
But the thing about that is, Aries energy is also about who am I? So a lot of this energy is around, self-identity, figuring out who you are. But so a lot of this looks like also self-accountability, where like you haven't been taking accountability of your own life. You need to start, because when all this stuff moves into fire, the people that have been making excuses of why they shouldn't take action are going to be jolted in a way where like, well, you have the power to change your life. You've always had the power to change your life. Now it's time to take action on it. You can't blame your parents for raising you this way. You can't blame this situation. You can't blame this anymore, because now you're in a fire pool that's supporting you to finally do something about it. And for some people, that's going to be really great, because they're going to start finally changing their lives in profound ways. For other people that want to stay in like this, I said this in another interview recently, and I hesitate to say it again, but for people that want to stay in like victimhood and blame everyone else for all their own problems, this is going to be like part of that reality check.
Yep.
Which is good.
It is
Some people
good.
need that reality check in order to make the changes in their life that they need to make.
And I'm not saying that there aren't real victims, but very often the people that are real victims are the ones that like persevere and get out of those situations.
They don't stay,
in them. And well, sometimes
or I self-identify, because even if you've left even if you're away from it, it's something of your past, like when it's something that becomes part of your personality. Because I agree with you in the sense of, obviously the stuff that we go through and the traumas that we experience shape us in who we are. But then we have that choice on how we want to move forward with it. And so we can move forward where we're stuck and we only want to identify with that trauma, or we move forward and we are empowered by it and it's not forgotten, because you can reference it, but in an empowered way, right?
I've had so much trauma you saw the Scorpio in my chart.
Oh gosh. I'm like, she's Scorpio, guys.
Like,
Scorpio, sun, moon, rising.
Right. Jeez. Like all I've known was trauma in my life. I was born into trauma. I was like, my birth was traumatic, right? Like I was born months early. Like that's all I've ever known my whole life. But and I'm not saying I'm better or holier than anyone else, but like there is something about choosing to stay in the trauma and using it as a catalyst to evolve. Right. What is there to learn from this? How do I grow from this? How do I teach other people to get out of this?
Yes.
Right? And that's what I'm trying to do, right? With the trauma I had to go through, which has happened many, many, many times in my life. But there's an element of the people that want to stay in the victimhood because it's easier to stay there than to finally take action on something. You're going to have a harder time staying there next year because the astrology is not going to support it.
Wow. So interesting. It's a good thing. It really is.
I agree. I agree. It's a good thing, but for some people who are not ready for that reality check,
uncomfortable.
It'll be hard.
It's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Interesting.
Look like self-accountability, which means like we are all accountable for ourselves, which means we are all accountable for ourselves.
Yeah.
So all your reactions, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Like if someone pisses you off and you choose to punch them in the face, like you are accountable for punching somebody in the face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And you're like, well, they said this to me. Okay, I hear you, but you still need to be held accountable for your actions.
Yeah, because you had a choice.
Yes, you had a choice. You chose violence.
Yeah. And then there's consequences. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it is also going to manifest collectively where people are like, well, who hasn't been held accountable? How do we make these people accountable?
Hollywood. I hear Hollywood.
I know. I just heard it just like popped into my head where I was like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Right. Like where are people in powerful positions that have been abusing their power?
Right.
Yeah. And let's see them be held accountable. Face the music.
We already started to see a lot of this. This hasn't even really, like we started to see this before the astrology is even in there.
Yes. I often feel that energy of the astrology shifting before it actually shifts. It's like a buildup.
Yeah. So when people are like, well, that's already happening. I'm like, yeah, you're just seeing a preview. We haven't even moved in yet. right? So you're going to start to see more of that. You're going to start to see more people coming out, exposing things, exposing the truth of like, you know, I'm not saying every celebrity needs to watch out if you have skeletons in your closet. I'm sure we all have skeletons in our closets at some level or another.
Yeah.
It's more of like the people who really need to be held accountable for their actions. That's very much also Pluto and Aquarius. Pluto is about bringing the power back to the people, right? There's a reason why the French people revolted and brought the power back to their own king. You're seeing this right now with all that stuff that happened with like the United Healthcare CEO, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
feeling like, do I condone somebody shooting someone in broad daylight, or maybe it wasn't daylight, just in the middle of the street?
Yeah.
No, but there's so many people. But do I think the healthcare system in the US is fucked up?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So do we
My
have
mother.
greed in that? We did. And this scenario, this person was kind of like that, you know, symbol of that greed. And then you're right. The reactions was, okay, well, what, you know, there's consequences for actions we take. Absolutely.
Right.
But it has brought forward a bigger issue. Right.
Right. My mother is a computer programmer. She's a software engineer. Okay. She's going to kill me for talking about her on here, but here we are. She used to work for an insurance company years ago. She no longer works for an insurance company, but she used to work for, and I remember we were at an event or a family, or somebody said something and they were like, oh, if I want to get into medicine, if I want to get into medicine, where can I make the most money? And she's like, go work in insurance.
Wow.
A medical insurance company, that's where you'll make the most money. Like and that just showed you like how crazy the system is. She didn't say like, go become a doctor. She said, oh, all the money's in the insurance companies, right? They're the ones that make the money in healthcare, not the physical. We're actually healing people and curing people and helping people, right?
Yeah.
So their system is broken. Do I condone like necessarily shooting somebody on the street in this abrupt, jarring way? No, but do I feel like it needed to happen to reveal something? Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it
see more of this, of like revolution, rebellion, of like the system fucked me. The system this way. You pretend like you look out for us, but you don't actually look out for us. And then suddenly there's a revolution.
Yes. Because you do have like, there's people standing up for the shooter, and that they're like on his side.
As there should be, because he brought up a good point, right? Of like where this is.
Absolutely.
Where how many people have been denied, how many people can't get proper health care, how many people literally can't, you know,
totally.
So many people go into debt in America and can't even afford homes and to survive and live in their cars because of medical bills.
Absolutely. Wow. You go to have a baby in the US. So what is it? $20,000, $25,000 bill to just procreate? Like,
oh, that's nothing. That's if you have a natural birth. If you have a C-section and they have to cut you open, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's great. Like, that is absurd to me, that a natural thing. And I can't even. That is going to set me up.
And then you pay into insurance and then you get a bill and you're like, wow, they didn't really cover anything. I still owe $100,000 on this.
No,
I had a baby.
That's crazy. Like, to me, stuff like that, where I'm like, you're doing a natural thing, like you're having a child. That's how we procreate and we keep moving on as society. And you're going to be put with that sort of a bill.
In America, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in America, this is why a lot of people stay at jobs that are toxic, that are abusive, that are harmful, that are dangerous, because they get insurance.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to stay in this job for 10 more years because I get insurance and my family gets insurance. I don't care if I'm getting paid pennies. I don't care if my boss is abusing me. I don't care if it's affecting my mental health and I cry every single day. At least I have health insurance.
And like, even like, I don't even care if I'm doing things that are wrong. Cause you think about, you know, different things that's like, well, why wouldn't any employee come forward in, let's just say it's a sexual harassment or something like that. Why wouldn't employees come forward? And you're like, right there.
I don't want to lose my job.
I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to lose my insurance, and my child who has diabetes, I can't afford. So I will do whatever I need to do, even if it's unethical.
I can't afford the medicine because the medicine is like an injection. My diabetic partner needs.
Absolutely.
That's 20 grand a month because the pharmaceutical companies are also like,
oh, so corrupt. Absolutely.
And they want to keep you like, if you're not sick, they're not making money because you don't need drugs.
Absolutely. Like,
right?
it's so corrupt.
The whole system, right?
Yeah. And so this like like, and in any other, like, you know, in any other scenario, somebody walks up to somebody and shoots them, we're all like, wow, that's terrible. But it's crazy how, like, in this scenario, like, it's brought up a bigger issue, right? And it's highlighted a really big issue that now the people are coming together being like, yeah, like, that's when everybody's coming together and being like, no, this is awful and we're not standing for it, right?
Yeah, but they should be, because the system is corrupt.
It is corrupt, and we need to do that. Like, we need to stand. It's just like in Canada when we had the truck, you know, I don't want to say truck parade. It's not truck parade.
The convoy.
The convoy. And there was this where this revolution of all of these trucks going to the Capitol, and, you know, like, and there was obviously both sides where people are like, how dare they, like, they're doing this, this, and this. And I remember thinking, this is an amazing thing to watch. You are watching people standing up for their rights, and they are doing it. And, you know, and so to me, I'm like, wow, bravo, you know? Yeah. We're seeing more and more and more of this.
I mean, we're gonna continue to see more of that, where things are gonna be heightened on an extreme level, and things are going to be exposed. Truths about situations are going to be exposed, but not in like an easy way. It's going to feel explosive. It's going to be abrupt. Because it needs to be. I've been saying this all year. Human beings are naturally stubborn. We're stubborn people. Even if you don't have a lot of stubborn placements in your astrology.
Yeah.
Like, we're just naturally stubborn. We don't always like to make change unless we're forced to.
It's so true.
Very often, the times when we let go of shit, we have ego deaths, we finally release things, we finally let go of that toxic person, we finally end that friendship, we finally quit that job, we finally move out of that house that's filled with mold. It's when things get so fucking bad and so unbearable, you have no choice, right? That's why a lot of people change through trauma, through crisis, because if you didn't go through trauma and crisis, maybe you would have stayed complacent and stayed the same, right? And a lot of this is about highlighting where things need to get extreme for change to finally happen. Do I support all of the ways that it's happening? No, not necessarily, but I also know the astrology and I know it needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is like that growing pains period, these next 2 years of like things being really illuminated, things really coming to the forefront, people really not just waking up spiritually, but waking up to how corrupt everything really fucking is. And people being angry about it.
And being angry.
And that's what's going to create the change.
It is going to create the change. And I think for, you know, because I sit here and I, you know, especially people that are energetically sensitive or have gone through this, and we're already see it, and we're waiting for everybody else to see it. I think like it's important in that sense, like you've said before, staying grounded, because it just feels like, because I know when so much comes forward of corruption, even though like I see it, I can see through it, when it's really highlighted, there can be this feeling of like, what's the point? Right? Like, what is the point? Like, there's just no freaking point. This is corrupt. I just see darkness everywhere. So I think like, you know, in those moments, it is grounding, moving back into yourself, you know, so that you're not overwhelmed by all of this kind of darkness, right? That's going to come forward that we need to see, but it can also feel deflating too, right?
But the point is bigger than you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
People don't realize, right? It's about ushering in a new future for our children, for our family.
Oh, for sure.
Right? For like, maybe you don't see the point, but a lot of what's happening is bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than us. It needs to happen in that way. And anybody can easily say, what's the point? Like, I'm never going to get a raise. What's the point of working out if I'm just going to have to keep working out to maintain my body? Right? Okay, fine. You can give up if you choose to. Or choose to change something and be empowered. Yeah. Right? Where the choice comes in, right? Which crossroads are you choosing to take?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just more in the sense of like, when we can ground ourselves so that we can continue to fight, but like it becomes yeah, like again, when you're sensitive and you're feeling the collective of that, it's like, okay, what can you do on a personal level so that you are not buried by it, or it doesn't overcome you in the sense where you're like depressed and all of that stuff, because that's very much that energy, right? And so that's where it's kind of like, okay, that's when, you know, you take those moments because you're like, I know this needs to happen, I love seeing it, but you're going to take those moments to take a step back, go inwards, do the meditation, do the grounding, do whatever you need to kind of find that solitude, that peace within you, and so that you can continue to show up and fight for what we need to fight for, right? Yeah, because it's
The last thing I want to mention that I didn't mention is Pluto, and Pluto's about power, and Aquarius is about the people and humanity. And while this is going to bring so much revolution, rebellion, and innovation for the higher good of humanity, Pluto is always about power and power dynamics. And again, Aquarius is about people collectively. We're also in this energy of distortion of reality. We don't know who to believe. We don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
So it could also be that people grow in, the wrong people kind of grow in power. And what I mean by that is, I think Pluto and Aquarius, we're also probably going to see like an increase and a rise in cults. And like us giving our power to maybe like the wrong people or the wrong situations because we don't really know what to believe. So suddenly you start following someone and listening to someone who's like, well, I think this person's the savior. So maybe I've woken up like a lot of this. And this is why it's so important for everybody who's woken up spiritually to be a sounding board and a grounding board for the people in your life, because a lot of people who are going to wake up are not going to know what to read, what to study, what to do. And they may find the wrong outlet or the wrong person or the wrong guidance. And there's a lot of like wolves in sheep's clothing in the industry as well. We know that.
Yeah.
Right. So making sure that, not that you have to tell someone exactly what they need to listen to, but helping people figure out their own discernment of, is just because this person says they're spiritual and just because this person says this, am I still aligning with what they're talking about?
Exactly. Absolutely. Constantly checking in with yourself in that sense. I think that's so important. Even if you've been following the person for years, if something starts to feel off, like you have to listen to yourself, right? Yeah, that's discernment. That is like the biggest like word for 2025. It feels like discernment. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big one, and it's going to be harder for people to discern if they're, again, always looking for answers outside of themselves. And then being like spending time getting quiet, spending time meditating, spending time alone. To really unpack how they actually really feel. Not how your mom tells you need to feel, not how your husband thinks you need to feel, not what your children say, but like, how do you really feel?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so key. That's so key.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we say goodbye?
Oh boy, I mean, where do I start? I mean, a lot. It took me 3 months, 3 hours just to talk about 3 months, right? In my
I love that.
The one thing I will say, Jupiter is moving into Cancer in June, on June 9th. Jupiter, where Saturn comes in and Saturn restricts, Jupiter comes in and Jupiter expands. And this is like the silver lining.
Yay!
Let's end on a good note, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jupiter in Cancer. So if you have Cancer placements, you're really going to feel this. Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising, Cancer North Node, any of these like strong Cancer placements, you're going to feel this a lot. Jupiter comes in and Jupiter expands. It brings ease, it brings flow, it brings opportunity. And in Cancer is about nurturing. Cancer is about the home. Cancer is about family. Cancer is the mother in the zodiac, right? It's the placement where you go to someone's house and they're like, did you eat? Did you sleep? You need to take a nap? Can I make you a sandwich? Right? Like this is like that nurturing side. And Jupiter in Cancer wants to nurture everyone. So throughout all this fiery fucking chaos,
find your cancers.
We have a silver lining of like, some of the astrology is sugarcoating this in a way of like, how do we still nurture ourselves? How do we still nurture others throughout all this? Right?
Yeah.
So, by the way, the last time Jupiter was in Cancer was June 2013 to July 2014. So, 20 years ago.
Wow.
perspective.
Yeah.
So you might want to take a look at what was showing up in your life at that time period. I'm not saying it's going to manifest in exactly the same way, but it can be a little bit of preview. But like, it's almost like through all this fire, there is a nurturing facilitator. That's helpful.
That's
That'll
so
be good.
interesting.
And a lot of this is going to be like reconnecting with people again, reconnecting with family members. I don't mean, by the way, I don't mean complacency of like forgiving abusers and
Yeah.
taking exes back that you shouldn't take back. That's not what I mean. I
Mm.
mean more of like, all right, maybe I disagree with my family members, but how can we just like still connect? Because
Yeah.
we're still all one, right?
Yeah.
We're all connected on some level spiritually, whether we realize it or not, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like that, like cushion a little bit, or that silver lining astrology throughout all this madness and chaos and fire and, you know, impulsivity is okay. Well, there's a nurturing energy behind it as well. And it's interesting. A lot of the fire starts the year off, and then Jupiter moves into Cancer in June. So like there may be a lot of impulsivity, there may be a lot of conflict, there may be a lot of this, and then suddenly Jupiter moves into Cancer and you're like, all right, how do we bring some more peace?
Right.
Yeah. 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 So
And
kind
how
of
long is that placement there for?
For a year.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 I was like, oh, 2014, I was having a child. That is very motherly.
Yeah. Well, want another one?
No, I do not. I know. I was like, no, we're not having that come around. I will birth a new business idea. There we go.
Okay. Well, don't say I didn't warn you.
Be protected, Allison.
Listen, I'm not saying don't have sex. I'm all for having a healthy marriage and relationship.
Be protected. Exactly. This whole year. This whole year. I don't need.
Well, it's not happening till June, so don't worry.
Okay. I will free as a bird.
Awesome. So this is kind of like that, you know, silver lining.
It is. Yeah.
That's
so
good.
Interesting. It's nice.
And so you're hosting webinars on your own.
So I'm doing
website.
webinars right now. I don't know when to air. I might be already done with the live. I'm doing them every weekend. So last weekend, it's a 4-part series of really unpacking the astrology of 2025. Like what we talked about today was just scratching the surface, as you know.
Right.
But like the first one I did last weekend took 3 hours just to cover the first 3 months.
Yeah.
I did today. We covered April to June. That took a little bit less than 3 hours, like 2.5 or whatever. And then the next following weekend, following Saturday, I'm going to do July to September. And then the following weekend after that, I'm going to do October to December. So if anyone, whenever this airs, if anyone's missed any of the live webinars, the replays are all available on my website. If you want to like, you can buy them individually. If you want to just check in quarter by quarter, you can buy them as a bundle and save money. You'll save money if you buy it as a bundle, but it really gives you like more in depth of like month by month, what's going to show up, how it can manifest, you know, a lot of the ways, you know, things, and also like a lot of practical advice on how to handle a lot of these things.
Awesome.
We briefly talked about too. But...
Good. Well, we will link all that in the show notes for anybody, and you can find you're mostly on Instagram and you do a bit of YouTube.
I do a bit of YouTube. I started doing more of it in the beginning of the year, and I've kind of fallen off a little bit because I forget to post on there.
It's hard.
I try to do more, but Instagram has really been where like my crowd is, and I've been pretty consistent on there. But you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on my website. Yeah, you can always join my mailing list if you sign up. I don't spam people. I actually should be sending out more emails, and I don't. I hate getting spammed, so I'm like, I don't want to bother people unless there's like a sale going on or something.
Yeah,
so true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out there. I'm posting stuff. I'm putting videos out there to keep people informed, so you can always find me.
Good, and we're trying to convince Asya to teach, so stay tuned for that.
I know. A lot of people have been asking me to do like a course or to start teaching, and that is something 100% on the books for 2025.
Yay!
Promise I will, something will be birthed.
Yay!
Maybe in June.
I know.
Well, actually, it's really funny you say that because in my astrology chart, Cancer, where Jupiter's moving into, is my 9th house, and 9th house is the house of knowledge and education and higher learning.
Ah, dang.
Come
That's
on.
amazing.
It's written in the stars.
Opportunity for
It
growth
is.
and education.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. I love that.
Awesome.
You're on to something.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you
Well,
for
maybe
having me.
yes, maybe we can have you come check in when you have those courses ready, and we'll do like a recap. Maybe we can do recap of the year and announce some of your courses for you. But we are so grateful to have you, and we will see you next time.
Can't wait. Love you guys. Thank you.
Bye.